Hello students, good morning to you all. Myself I am Dr. M. Indira, Associate Professor in Department of Biotechnology. Today we are seeing the topic 3, that is hotspots of biodiversity, and the unit 1, that is Introduction to Geological History of Biodiversity. So previous classes we have seen historical development of biodiversity and various types of biodiversity. Now we will see the various hotspots of biodiversity. The objective of this topic is to overview the hotspots of biodiversity in India and world. After going through this topic, the expected outcome is the overview of hotspots of biodiversity in India and world will be known. Before going to the introduction, we will see the video animation where it describes various hotspots of biodiversity in India.
So we have seen various hotspots of biodiversity in India. Now we'll see the introduction part. So hotspots of biodiversity. What is hotspot? Hotspot is nothing but a region where the species, the significant levels of biodiversity we can observe, and that particular biodiversity is in threatened with destruction. That is called as hotspot. Or we can say a hotspot is a biogeographic region where the significant levels of biodiversity which are endemic. That means they are confined to a particular area where we can observe variety of species, and these species are in threatened condition. That is called as hotspot of biodiversity. And this hotspot of biodiversity was first introduced by Norman Myers. He published this particular concept in the journal, that is Nature, in the year 1988. That means very recently the term came, and after the term came, now we are seeing 36 hotspots of biodiversity across the world. And the hotspot represents an opportunity to help conserve the particular species in the particular region. That means on the earth. So we can conserve those species. Whatever the threatened species, those threatened species we can conserve, and we can improve or we can increase the biodiversity. And this Myers, originally he recognized 25 hotspots around the world. Later, after Myers identifying this 25 hotspots, now recently 11 more were added to this 25. Now the total of 36 hotspot biodiversity exists on the world. So we can observe the 36 hotspots of biodiversity across the world. This picture, this is the plant, picture plant. This is confined to a particular region.
That means this is the endemic species of plant to Himalayan region. So, what is the criteria to decide a particular hotspot? How we can decide a region as a hotspot? So, this is the criteria used for identifying a particular region as a hotspot. The first criteria is, if any region to qualify, the first criteria is at least 1500 vascular plants as endemics. Endemics means the species is confined to a particular area. Confined to a particular area nowhere else in the world. That is called endemic species. So, particular area nowhere present. For example, say Bengal tiger. So, confined to India only, nowhere else. So, like that, similarly, those species are endemic species. So, those endemic species confined to a particular region where we have to observe 1500 vascular plants. What are vascular plants? We will see. Next category, it must lost at least 75% of its primary vegetation. That means the loss of vegetation, more than 70% of its original native habitat. That means it is in a threatened condition. That condition is called as, that region is called as hotspot biodiversity. So, these two criteria are used to qualify a particular region as a hotspot biodiversity. Here, if you see this hotspot biodiversity, they represent 2.3% of the Earth's land surface and they support more than 50% of the world's plant species and approximately 43% of the bird, mammal, reptile, amphibian species as endemics. Endemics means they confine to a particular region, nowhere else. So, this is the terminology or definition for vascular plants. What is vascular plant? A vascular plant is nothing but a plant which was characterized by both the presence of xylem and phloem. We all studied in school days or in intermediate level. So, xylem and phloem. So, in this picture you can observe. So, this is the vascular plant. So, various parts of a plant. Here the xylem conducts transport of the water. Here water is transported. That is called transpiration. That is from roots to the top of the plant. From this part to this part, the water transport taken place because of the xylem. And then phloem. This prepares the food material for the plant. So, the presence of both xylem and phloem in a plant is called as vascular plant. So, the presence of 1500 vascular plants in a particular region identifies as a hotspot region. And next, endemic species. This means a species are unique to a particular biogeographical location and not found elsewhere in the world. Example, Bengal tiger. So, it confines to India only. Nowhere it is present in the world. Such type of species are called as endemic species. For example, here you can see Habenaria panigrahiana, Lasiococca comberry and Sapria himalayana, Ovaria lurida are endemic to the India. So, these are the various endemic species present in the India. And this picture represents the various hotspots in the world. So, here starting from Arctic to Antarctic and from west to east, we can observe the biodiversity hotspots covered in the total 7 continents. So, we can observe here California floristic province and then Caribbean islands and here Guinea forestry of West Africa and Cerrado in South America, and next you can observe the mountains of Central Asia, and here in India you can observe the Himalayas. Himalayas is the hotspot region, and Indo-Burma, Indo plus Indonesian then Burma, and then here Western Ghats as well as Sri Lanka, and here Sundana land, Philippines, Japan. So these are the various hotspot regions in the world. We will see what are those various categories. So far, the identified hotspots are the total 36. 36 hotspots are identified in the world. So here you can see North and Central America, California, and then Madrian pine oak woodlands, then Mesoamerica. Again here North American coastal plain is the 36th hotspot recently added into the list. And the first hotspot here is the tropical Andes. This is the first hotspot identified in the world. So later these are the various hotspots of entire world. Here Africa also you can observe coastal forest, Africa Eastern Affluent, and then Guinea forest, and again Madagascar, and then Central Asia, mountains of Central Asia, South Asia, which is South Asia, Eastern Himalayas, and then Indo-Burma, then West Asia, and Southeast Asia, that is the Pacific region, particularly the Philippines, New Zealand, and then East Melanesian, and East Asia, Japan, and mountains of Southwest China. So all these are the 36 hotspots of the world, and these are the hotspots of the India. So in India, we can observe mainly the 4 hotspots. One is the Western Ghats, second one Himalayas, and third one Indo-Burma, and fourth one is the Sunda land. It includes the Nicobar group of islands, that is nothing but Andaman and Nicobar group islands. So here in these pictures you can observe this is the Himalayas hotspot region, and this is the Western Ghats hotspot region, and this entire one is the Indo-Burma region, covers the India, then Myanmar, and then Thailand as well as Cambodia. So this entire region is occupied by hotspots, that is Indo-Burma region. Then Sunda land here, entire Indian Ocean, whatever the Nicobar islands, and then Malaysia region, and then Thailand, and then Borneo, all together is called as Sunda land hotspot biodiversity. So these are the 4 hotspots of biodiversity related to the India. And if you observe the various endemic species particular to our hotspots, here Himalaya, you can see the entire Indian Himalayan region that falls under Pakistan, Tibet, Nepal, Bhutan, and China and Myanmar. Here you can observe this picture plant confined to Himalayan region. Next, Indo-Burma region, entire northeastern India except Assam and Andaman group of islands. Then Myanmar, Thailand, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, and southern China comes under the Indo-Burma region. So in this Indo-Burma region, we can observe the leaf deer, and again this one leaf deer. And if you see the Sunda lands, it includes Nicobar group of islands where Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Brunei, and Philippines are the regions covers under the Sunda land, where we can observe the Sunda clouded leopard. Sunda clouded leopard. This is endemic species to this particular region. If you see the Western Ghats and Sri Lanka, it includes the entire Western Ghats of India, that is the western coast, and then Sri Lanka region, where we can observe this Travancore tortoise and we can observe the line-tailed macaca. So this is the one monkey species. This animal is in extinct condition, that is in threatened category, line-tailed macaca. So these are the various endemic species confined to the 4 hotspots of the biodiversity of India. What is the importance of this biodiversity, particularly to India? If you see the biodiversity profile, India occupies the 7th largest country in the world in terms of the biodiversity, and 2nd largest nation in the Asia, and land frontier is the 15,200 kilometers, and the coastal line is 7,516 kilometers, and this is one of the top 12 megadiversity countries in the world, and number of plant species around 49,000. This occupies 12.5% of the world biodiversity. and number of animal species around 81,000. It occupies 6.6% of the world fauna, and species endemism among plants is 33%. So endemism among animals is mammals 44 species only, that is endemic, and birds 55, reptiles 187, and amphibians are 110. So this is the endemic species in various categories of animals. And the national parks are 89, and wildlife sanctuaries around 497, and tiger reserves are around 27 to the area occupies 27 square kilometers to 37,000 square kilometers. This is the hotspot biodiversity profile of the entire India. And now the summary. The biodiversity hotspot is nothing but the biogeographic region with significant levels of biodiversity. Those biodiversity are in threatened condition is called as a hotspot biodiversity. And this concept was first introduced by Norman Mayer. He published this concept in the journal, that is Nature. And this is the criteria used to identify a particular region as a hotspot biodiversity. The first criteria is it must have at least 1500 vascular plants as endemic plant species, and it must have lost at least 75% of vegetation. So that means the particular region is in threatened condition and the species are endemic, that means they confine to that particular region, that is called as hotspot biodiversity. Endemic species are nothing but unique to a particular biogeographical location. They are nowhere present in the world. That is called endemic species. Now the study questions are: define biodiversity hotspot, enlist the biodiversity hotspots in the world, describe hotspots of biodiversity in India, enlist the criteria for selecting the region as hotspot biodiversity, and describe the biodiversity profile of the India. These are the various references collected for developing this digital content. So we are acknowledging the public domain for developing this teaching material. So we are acknowledging, and thank you all.